Hey, I'm Deidre Detterman, host of the Do It My Way podcast, where we empower women business owners and CEOs to do business on their terms with no regrets, hesitation, or fear. I'm obsessed with all things marketing. I started my career in television, and I remember sitting in countless meetings, listening to executives talk about things that needed to change, but they never did. I was always thinking, what if we did it my way? Once I became an entrepreneur and I started living life on my terms, working the hours I want to work, making the money I want to make, I started to feel success. I was finally in control of my destiny. I hope you will join me on this journey discovering how you can do it your way. Hi, it's Deidre Detterman with another episode of the Do It My Way podcast. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest. She's a photographer, well sought after, shoots not only here in Tulsa and does amazing work, but all over the United States. And I'm so excited, well, actually the world. I'm so excited to introduce you to Amy Herndon.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Hi,
Thank
Amy.
you.
I know. I'm so happy to see you on this side because I know you've done some photography work for me.
Yes.
For my daughter.
Love that.
And for me personally and a lot of our clients. But now it's kind of diving in and talking a little bit about your career and what got you started in this. So I'm so excited to hear that story.
Well, thank you.
And dive in. But before we get started here, I'm just going to share with you a little bit about what the Do It My Way podcast is all about.
Perfect.
So we empower female CEOs and entrepreneurs to do business on their terms. Okay.
I love that.
It's no regrets, no hesitation, no fear, just diving in, doing it your way.
Perfect.
So Do It My Way is not necessarily about doing everything my way.
Right.
But when I started to do things my way, I started to see success. So I worked in the corporate world, and I know you did too. So I can't wait to hear a little bit more about that. But my destiny was not up to me.
Right.
Someone told me what time I needed to get there, what time I could leave in the day, how many vacation days I could have, how much money I was going to make.
Right.
They dictated my life.
Yes.
And as I started to dive in and climb that corporate ladder, I started to see, gosh, it's going to be really hard for me to achieve my goals. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a mom, right? I was raising little kids and working a ton of hours, and compensation. They paid whatever they wanted to pay me. Mm-hmm. I took whatever, we were joking earlier about what we made out of college, but it's it was up to them. And I remember my boss sitting me down and saying, okay, it was my annual review. And he was praising me. You were just a rock star. You've done so well for the company. And I'd worked there 10 years and I got a 3% raise for being a rock star.
Right.
So that's the cream of the crop, the person at the top that's doing all these great things. And I thought, 3%?
Right.
That's barely the cost of living.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And if I add that up over the years, how am I ever going to get to my goals?
Right.
Of where I want to be financially.
Right.
And I'm not working the hours I want to work. Mm-hmm. So I had no control over my destiny.
Right.
So when I started doing things my way, I started to see success. Success at home, success at business. I'm working the hours I want to work. I'm making the money I want to make. I was in control.
Yes.
So that's really what we're all about with the Do It My Way podcast.
I love it.
It's, I laugh because the name, when we were coming up with the name, my mom's like, well, do it your way. And I'm like, not necessarily my way, but you find your way.
Right.
And make that be an inspiration. So you're a perfect guest.
Well, thank you.
Because you're living life on your terms. Right.
I am, definitely.
You're working the hours you want to work.
Right.
You're making the money you want to make. No one's telling you what to charge.
Correct.
You create your own pricing.
Right.
So I want to dive into that and really inspire everybody out there that if they want to, become a photographer and do what you do, that they can kind of take the same steps.
Sure.
So, okay. So to dive in, I'm doing a real quick bio because I want you to actually share your story. But I just had to pull this out of your bio because I knew you did great work here. And I've seen on your Instagram, you're kind of here, there, and everywhere shooting really cool stuff. But she has shot sessions in Oklahoma City, Dallas, Austin, Seaside, Aspen, Steamboat Springs, New York, Chicago, Bahamas, and Bora Bora. Yes. And you're actually missing one because I was in Cabo with you not too long ago, you were shooting in Cabo. So, I mean, how exciting.
Right, I forgot Cabo.
I'm like, to be a photographer and be able to travel all over the world to shoot amazing things, amazing life events for people. I mean, that's just so cool. So I can't wait to hear more about that. But just share a little bit about your journey and your story and how you got to be here.
Okay. So I don't even know how far back to go, but out of college and when I got married, I worked in the corporate world and was in the energy business, and specifically energy marketing and trading, and worked in Houston for some big firms down there, and then moved to Tulsa when we were ready to start a family, and worked for Williams here until our first child was born. And I really wanted to keep working. I wanted to have something that was my own that I was still doing, but I also wanted to be a mom and be there for my son. Right. And at the time that Williams was amazing and really offered to work with me and try to do something remotely. Well, we didn't really have internet then, and
wasn't Zoom.
There just wasn't a way to work remotely. And I tried it, I think, for a few days. I mean, less than a week. And then I said, this isn't going to work. And I just felt like I couldn't be the mom I wanted to be while also trying to work full time. So I ended up leaving Williams and staying home, and then had 3 kids. And during that time, I was always a photographer as a hobby. Since I was a kid, I always took lots of pictures and took lots of pictures of my kids. And at the time, professional photography was very traditional. Posed. Everyone
hugging the tree.
Yes, sitting in the park, and everyone is lined up in matching outfits, sitting perfectly still, exactly the same.
Which you could never get your kids to do that anyway.
And that's not what kids look like in real life. And I saw my kids how they were in real life and thought, this is what I want to capture. And it's kind of hard to explain looking back. That was when my oldest is almost 24. Yeah. And to make younger people see that that's not, we didn't have photography like that back then, because now there is so much candid photography.
It was cutting edge.
But there wasn't that. So I tried taking pictures of my kids in a candid environment and capture who they really were. And even though I was a hobbyist photographer, I didn't really know technically how to be a good photographer. And so I just started reading everything I could and learning everything I could and practicing, and kept taking pictures of my kids. And then eventually I had friends who said, well, can we pay you to take pictures of our kids? Because they saw something that you couldn't get at the time in the marketplace. So Then when people offered to pay me to take pictures, I thought, well, I can't do this. I don't really know what I'm doing. And then I just kept learning and figuring it out, and then eventually grew from there. So it was very organic. I didn't I can't say that I was really brave about going out and starting my business, because I really wasn't. But
it fell in your lap because
but there was a need in the marketplace, because that didn't candid photography of lifestyle photography of families and children did not exist at the time. And so that's how it started. And I worked out of my home for a few years, and then opened my first studio space. And I've had it worked out of a studio and on location for about 10 years now.
Okay, that's great. And your studio's gorgeous.
Thank you.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
Well,
Thank you.
I love that, because we work with a lot of influencers, or, people that they want to become a blogger, an influencer. And the ones that already have a craft that they're great at, creative, whether it's photography or artist or whatever it is, they fall into that. They do so much better than waking up one day and saying, I think I'm going to be this. Right. But it's not naturally who you are.
Right.
A personal brand works so much better if it's something you actually love, you fell into, and then it turns into a business.
Correct.
Those are actually my favorite stories. Yeah. So I love that. Well, and you also wanted to be in sports. I read that you're a huge Chiefs fan.
I am. And Chiefs and Royals. I grew up in Kansas City. Okay. And my dream job that I put in my high school yearbook was to be the PR director for the Chiefs someday.
How fun.
And I worked for OU athletic department all through college. And then they offered me a full-time job when I was graduating, and the salary was $13,000 a year. Oh, and I about had a panic attack because it was April, a month before I was graduating. And I thought,
how do you pay bills?
I can't live off this. I need to eat and need to live by myself. And And so I had always been taught and encouraged to follow my passion, and sports was my passion. And then I realized, well, my passion is also to live independently.
Right.
So I detoured and then ended up in the energy business. So still a huge sports fan, but at the time needed more money. Needed to be able to live.
I love that. Well, entrepreneurship kind of fell into your lap, which is great. You took your hobby and made the most of it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there with a hobby still at home trying to do their thing and not able to take off with it. So I'm excited to kind of hear, that from you as well. So, okay. So your corporate job, it's obviously scary to quit, 'cause there's a lot of people I know that, they're in a job and you kind of feel trapped. You're starting to get that paycheck coming in regularly and you're like, okay, how do I go and even go out on my own? You stayed home because that was important that time with the kids.
Right.
But what gave you the courage to really just say, okay, I'm going to go? Did you think maybe I'm coming back to corporate world?
Probably.
When my kids were older?
I think so. I think in hindsight, I probably did.
Yeah.
And then it was as the business grew and I thought, this really can be a thriving business.
Right.
But I think a lot of it is important to make sure that there is a need in the marketplace for what you're doing.
Right.
And also that you're going to do it well.
Yeah.
I threw myself into this. So even though I was on my own terms as far as hours and what I was doing, it was the flip side is when you're working for your own, for yourself, that you're working 24/7 pretty much, either
editing,
trying to get better.
Yeah.
Yes. The work in all areas of the business.
Yes.
Make sure that there is a need in the marketplace for you.
That's a great point.
And that you understand the business side of it. I think it's tricky to be, at least in my field, to have artistic eye,
right?
But then also understand the business side of it.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. When you talk about working, you might be editing at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, or whatever. There's something about, because I do want to make no mistake that when you're starting a business, you absolutely are going to work 12-hour days. Like it is going to happen in the beginning until you take off and you're going. And so I did that, but then I got to the point where I don't have to do that.
Right.
But there's something about working at midnight when it's on your terms and you're working at midnight. It doesn't feel the same as your boss telling you, Amy, you've got to stay at work till 8 o'clock tonight.
And it's still a choice.
Right.
And while my kids were growing up, I took them to school every day, picked them up from school every day, went to every single one of their events. I never missed anything for my kids. So if I'm working at midnight, it was a trade-off so that I was always there for my kids while they were awake and I was working while they were asleep. It was all
your
my choice and my terms. Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's the difference. It's like when it's your choice, it's different than your boss telling you.
And so you're personally reaping the rewards of it.
Right. That's a great point. So when you want to do a session and you're getting a couple $1,000s, that couple thousand go in your pocket.
Correct.
Versus 10% of it may be going to you and your boss is getting it or the company's getting it.
Yes.
And there's a lot of satisfaction with that.
Right.
I tell entrepreneurs all the time, if you want a raise, go sell something.
Right.
That's all you have to do.
No, exactly.
Go sell something. It goes right in your pocket.
Right.
And I know there's expenses and all of that, but that really is the beauty of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So I love that. Well, so what are some of the initial challenges? Let's just think back to Amy. You're starting out, you're starting to do photography. When it clicked that you're like, maybe this could be a job. Like maybe I could charge for this. What were some of the challenges to get it going and to get, your days booked out?
I mean, at the time, I was in my target market.
Right.
I had kids when I started my business, the actual business, my kids were 9, 8, and 6 years old.
Okay.
And so I knew a lot of families with young kids. And it really did grow organically with
moms.
With moms.
Moms at school?
Moms at school.
Right.
Yeah, of course. And then friends of friends.
Right.
It's so hard to understand in 2023 when we're inundated with media, just how at the time rare it really was just to see lifestyle photography.
Very true.
So it really did stand out because it wasn't everywhere.
Right.
It wasn't flooded in the marketplace. So I feel like I was very fortunate with the timing of when it started. And then I can't remember when Instagram really took off. I started my business in 2009.
Yeah.
And I remember posting a lot on my Instagram on a trip in 2011. So I can't remember how early. But my business kind of started about the time where people then wanted images because they valued photography not just for their family and their walls and their home and their memories, but also for Instagram. And so it kind of...
Social media is, I tell people all the time, that should be your number one tool.
It's amazing.
It's free.
It's
for
free,
one.
yes.
I mean, you can put
go
ads
viral,
behind it,
yes.
but to be able to, especially photography, Instagram's all about pictures.
Right.
Right? It's beautiful pictures. So a photographer, it's such a natural to be on there posting your stuff. And I'll have clients say, well, I don't know. I'm not into social media. I don't have it myself. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if you have it.
Right.
Your customer is there.
Right.
So you have to be there as a business.
Exactly.
You know, and you don't have to share your whole personal life and everything you're doing.
Right.
But absolutely, as a photographer, that's the number one avenue.
Exactly.
And you rode that wave right at the right time.
It was unbelievable, the timing.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side of that is, I think with any entrepreneur in business, I think you have to be open to evolution and how trends change, the market changes, the business changes. And even though my business was growing at a time with Instagram and social media, it also was growing at a time when all of a sudden cameras got a lot better. And when I first started, no one had a digital camera.
Right.
And now everyone has an amazing camera on their phone with them at all times. So there have been lots of times where I thought, my business could go away in a few years because people don't need to pay for pictures when they can take great pictures themselves on their phone. So there is always kind of an evolution in any marketplace, in any business.
Yes.
And watching and saying, how am I going to stay with the changes in this industry? And
that is the number one key thing. I mean, I say in marketing all the time, if I was doing, if D2 Branding, we were doing what we did 3 years ago, 5 years ago, we would be out of business.
Right.
We'd be a dinosaur.
Right.
I mean, especially being a digital agency, social media, it changes, every other day there's a new platform you have to know and you've got to be on and all of that. So, I think for you to be sustainable during, like you said, you have it on your phone, but not everybody's an expert and has the eye that you have. And that's what they're paying for.
Right.
Yes. And speaking of Instagram, because that's actually how we found you. I remember Avery saying, Mom, I have to do my senior pictures with Amy Herndon. She's the best. And we go start looking at your Instagram and all your stuff.
Sweet.
And she didn't know.
Right.
That was just her looking on Instagram and seeing, she didn't know you before that. So the power of social media can be
it's unbelievable.
Amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
Love it or hate it, because
right.
there are hate moments we all have with it. But it can, for a business, it can be just a game changer.
A game changer. Absolutely. Yes.
Well, good. That's so great. Okay, so there's millions of photographers out there, but they're not flying to Bora Bora. So tell me, how did you become like this kind of destination? Because I know you shoot, engagement pictures, you're shooting babies, you're doing senior pictures. How have you gotten to where people are like, hey, will you fly to Bora Bora?
I don't really know, other than I have some wonderful clients who are generous and then they have these pictures that they value in their own home, wherever that is.
Right.
And then they think, well, this is my special place where we go to the beach or to the mountains or something. And this is a special moment for me. And you captured these moments for me. So I'd really like something captured there. And then I think they could hire a photographer there, or they could work with someone that they already have a relationship with and trust.
Absolutely.
And the additional, my fees are the same wherever I'm shooting, other than the travel expenses. So they think, well, I paid for the session here. I could also do the same thing there.
And it's a beautiful setting.
It's a beautiful setting.
And
there are usually moments that are important life moments, like engagements or honeymoon or something like that. So,
I love that.
So I don't know. It's just someone asked me one time, and then it kind of evolved from there.
Well, I remember seeing your seaside pictures that were just phenomenal.
Well, thank you.
And I think you think back, and now that my kids are older and growing, I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have got every time we went skiing or we went to the beach, you want to capture them.
And that's such a happy time in family memories because the family is together. You're not working. I mean, it's some of our most joyful family memories are on vacation. And a lot of people travel to the same spot every year, like whether it's a ski trip or beach trip. And so I think people really do treasure having family pictures in their happy place, so to speak.
I love that. So would you say networking is probably your number one advertising? I mean, you have social media, but you're not going out and spending all this money because you don't need to.
Not at all.
You're getting referrals.
Yes. It's all been word of mouth for the whole time I've been in business.
Which is incredible.
I believe in treating people well and with respect and connection is a big part of my business because in order to photograph them in a special moment and to get the most out of them, I have to develop a rapport with them and a connection. So I truly do come away from every session feeling like I have a relationship or friendship with my clients. And I think I hope that I make them feel the same way, and then they share that with somebody else. So
well, people have to know you, like you, and trust you to buy. So if you can make them feel like a friend, and I tell our team that all the time, our clients are our friends, right? We are in business together. We're partners with them. We're, really wanting them to succeed like a friend would.
Right.
And if they feel that it's not I'm taking money from you, but we're actually friends and doing this together, that's a total difference in a business.
Yes,
it really is.
I agree very wholeheartedly.
That's huge.
And I think by running my business that way, which is authentic, I really do feel that way. But that's what's helped my business grow and sustain and
well, the number one referral is a happy customer.
Well,
and you've had repeat. So not only the person that's like, hey, now we're going to vacation here, I want you to come. And now my daughter's getting engaged, I want you here. But also they're telling their friends, and friends are telling friends. And there's not a better referral out there.
I totally agree. And,
which is great.
And I get really emotional and touched when I'm doing different life events for the clients who are coming back. If I did their senior pictures, and then that senior is now getting married, and then they have a baby. I mean, I'll cry at the session because I just think, I can't believe that you've trusted me to go through these special life moments with you. And it's overwhelming to me. And I don't take it for granted for a minute. I really, truly appreciate that.
That emotional connection, you're making me think, because if you can have an emotional connection with your customers, that's when they're customers for life.
Yeah.
And you've done that, which I love. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
So what would be your advice? Because there's somebody out there that's trying to do photography, let's just say. They're working out of their house. It's a lot of times moms, because that's a great mom job. Right. I can work whenever. I can only set sessions up when, kids are not busy doing something else. I can go to school, drop off, pick up, all of that. So what is your number one piece of advice for that mom that's sitting at home thinking, gosh, I want to go to Bora Bora. I want to, have a photography business that can, supplement our income, or single mom wanting to raise their kids. So what would you say their number one thing that they should do?
Find a style that is yours, whether it's in the photography style, who you are as a person, something that makes you stand out. Because like you said, there are a bazillion photographers now. I mean, teenagers, it's awesome. I love it. There's so many people who are in this field. So in order to stand out, you've got to have something that stands out. And some of the photographers that I admired and followed and had friendships with and have been mentors to me since I started my business, they definitely have a distinct style that's them. And to this day, I can see their pictures and know that's who they are.
Wow.
And find that for yourself that makes you stand out from others. And now there's so many, filters that people put on pictures or something. And I don't really mean like find a filter that's yours. But just something, either the way you capture people, what you see through the lens. And master that, make that be who you are. Or it could be also, well, I mean, obviously the product is critical, but just who you are as a person. But something that makes people, if they're looking at 15 photographers from which to choose,
how do you stand out?
Why am I going out with that person? And if you're just looking at someone else's, if you as a photographer wanting to start yourself and you're just looking at someone else's work and trying to do what they do, you're not going to stand out on your own. So find who you are and what you want your work to look like.
I love that.
Really go into that.
That's great. That, we call that X factor. Find your X factor. What is that one thing that you can hang your hat on that nobody else is doing? Because that's the only way to stand out from your competition.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what is that thing? It's you as a person. Maybe it's your customer service, right? You go over and beyond. You become their friend. You get emotionally attached. You're there for them. Or it is something stylistically that you look different to stand out. So I love that. And you've done a really great job at that.
Thank you.
So let's talk about mentors. I know no one would be where they are without mentors, whether it's a family member, a friend, or somebody maybe in the photography business. Have you had a mentor that has you've looked up to and said, okay, I want to be like them?
Not, I can't really think of like someone I've looked up to that I've said, a lot of different photographers nationally. There are some that I follow, and there are bits and pieces of every one of them. Like, I love the way this person captures emotion. I love the way this person does families together. This person captures babies in such a beautiful, authentic way. So a lot of bits and pieces that I take inspiration from. I follow a lot of wedding photographers that I love their style. So bits and pieces of all of them. I'd say on a business level, a lot of it is some of my girlfriends who are entrepreneurs themselves, and I have quite a few. Some of my closest friends have started and grown their own businesses here in Tulsa and elsewhere, and we talk daily about business struggles and challenges and what we're doing, how you're handling this, and just having that tribe of other friends who are also entrepreneurs and learning and sharing and venting and and brainstorming with them is invaluable. I can't imagine doing this without a group of people who get it and can share ideas with.
Absolutely. And if you're out there and you're thinking, okay, I want to start a business, I have no friends that are entrepreneurs, right? I don't know anybody. There are all kinds of groups online that you can get, private Facebook groups, be a part of, that are for young entrepreneurs and things like that you can really reach out. But having a network of people that are doing what you do, that's so important.
Yes. And that reminds me that when I did start, I was in a lot of groups with photographers from not Tulsa, but all over, who were in the same position. And they'd be online groups, and we would share ideas and strategies and questions all the time. How do you handle this? And having a network of people in your same industry is awesome.
It is.
And then just people, even if it's a different industry, who have just started on their own and then can bounce ideas off of, because there's so many commonalities across the industries.
I love that. So what does success look like to you? Because I think different phases of life, like obviously when you're in the corporate world, there was a certain, level of success. When you're with your kids at home, success might be just getting out the door with your makeup and hair done for the day. So what is success like today for Amy Herndon? Is it getting bigger, growing? Is it just, continuing what you're doing? I mean, what would you define success as?
I don't know. I mean, I think I've never really had measurable goals for my business. And it's naturally evolved over the years. And part of that is always staying open to the market and changes and moving, adapting my business toward whatever stages of life my kids were in or, my family was in. But so I don't really know where I see it going in the future, other than I'm open to anything.
Whatever's coming. The new wave,
the new wave, I will adapt to it. We will figure it out. We'll make it work. But personal success about the business is definitely how I make people feel. Is as long as I have clients returning, that's the greatest measure of that. I'm doing something right and making them feel okay, providing a product that they value if they want to come back. So as long as I'm connecting with clients and making them feel like that they're happy with their experience and that they want to return or tell a friend, then that's the greatest measure of success to me. It is huge satisfaction.
Well, I always say if it's money, like clients will come in and do a consulting session and, gosh, I've got to make $20,000 a month. I've got to make this. I've got to get this house. I've got to drive this car. If it's just about money, it fizzles really quickly. Right. I mean, how many millionaire and billionaires are miserable? A lot. Because money is not fulfilling in that way. Whereas if you can have bigger purpose than you, and you feel like you're put on this earth to do this, to bring these life moments, to in pictures and bring them to life. I mean, that's amazing.
That's
amazing.
Fulfilling. I feel so fortunate. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I don't feel such incredible gratitude that I get to do this, and then I get to make people feel good about themselves or feel happy or have something that they treasure.
That's amazing. And by the way, you get paid.
And then I get paid. And I think the money comes as a result of that. If I was going after the money, then first, but
do
something well, do it the best you can. Do it hopefully better or as well as anyone else can do it. And the success will come from that.
You're spot on with that. I love that. That is so true. So being a busy mom and a wife, let's just go back to when you first were starting your photography business and kids, take a ton of time. This is before they're driving, before, it's activities and all the school things. How did you balance your photography? Did you say, okay, only certain days I'm going to be shooting? Or how did you kind of...
It was definitely around the kids' calendar.
You're right.
And honestly, when the first 3 years that I started my business, my husband was working and commuting to Houston.
Oh my goodness.
And looking back, I think, how did I do that?
Right.
How did we manage that? But he was gone Monday through Thursday working in Houston. And I was in Tulsa with 3 little kids. But we had their schedules and I worked when they were either in school. Yeah, when they were in school, really. Yeah. And then so I could be there to take care of them always. And then as they grew and then as they were driving or they were doing school sports or whatever, it was just if they had activities on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, then I worked Monday, Wednesday, Sunday, so it's always changes. And it's one reason I've never had an online booking mechanism with my business because it would always be just based upon my kids' schedules that week, that month.
Which is great. And I'm sure looking back, you're so thankful that you made them a priority.
Yes.
They're only little ones. I mean, we both have, kids in college and that have grown, and you're like, you blink and they're gone.
Right.
If you don't have that time. But,
exactly.
Like me, I still want to be a working, I love to work.
Right.
It's what drives me. I feel like it is my purpose, but I want to be a mom too.
Right.
And really the easiest way to control your destiny is to become an entrepreneur.
Right. Absolutely.
Is work for yourself. There's just not a lot of bosses that understand, that flex schedule and, we have this or that going on. So I love that. So biggest piece of advice for just a woman entrepreneur that is, wanting to start a business and not sure what to do. We actually have a lot of people that have done corporate America and have been very successful. And later in life, they say, I want to do something on my own. So what is like your number one piece of advice? If you want to become an entrepreneur, what would you say they should dive into?
Make sure there's a market need for what you want to do. Because just because you have an interest or hobby or talent or something, other people might not really care.
Right.
And you don't want to put all this time, energy, money starting a business that there's no market for.
Yes.
So make sure there's an interest in the market, a need in the marketplace for it. And then once you've identified that there is a need in the marketplace, then freaking go get it.
Right.
Go capture that and do it the best you can, better than anybody else, different than anyone else.
Yes.
And
so it's funny you say that, make sure there's a need in the market. That's one of the most important things. So if we're a big corporation, what are we going to do? We're going to have focus groups. We're going to do a ton of research. We're going to pay a company thousands and thousands of dollars to help us see if there's a need in the market. Most people don't have that.
Right.
Your entrepreneur at home, they definitely don't have that.
Right.
So what I always tell people, go to Google.
Right.
Google will tell you how many people have searched that term in the last 30 days all over the U.S.
Right.
Right. That's an easy, quick way to
that's
say.
Fantastic. Yeah.
People are searching it. People are searching it. I'm not seeing it being answered.
Right.
Or there's only a few companies, or there's nobody in my market doing that.
Yes.
And that's a great way to just kind of get out there and say, okay, this is something I'm going to dive into.
Right.
And go for it.
I think that's great. Yeah.
Well, you are so great, Amy. I've had so much fun with you today.
Thank you.
So last thing, if people want to see your work, because you do have this amazing style that you have, where can we find your work?
Instagram is probably the most updated.
Okay.
I don't know. For someone whose business is so all about pictures, I'm really not the best on social media, except I try to post more of my stories than I do in the feed. But Amy Herndon Photo is my Instagram handle. And then my website is amyherndonphotography.com.
Okay,
and that has
great.
a lot of stuff on there. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
You do amazing work.
Thank
You're an
you.
inspiration. I know there's so many people out there that would love to take the path you've taken,
thank you.
So I appreciate you sharing.
Thank you so much. True pleasure.
Well, thank you for joining us for the Do It My Way podcast. Until next time, we'll see you soon.